please welcome to this stage. Is the last session of the day, as I said, and we're going to talk about some interesting points. So we have just seen the presentation, and thank you, Jeff, for the presentation to give an introduction, what you do and what are the potential. Before I will ask you a question, all of you, just to set the scene, maybe if you can just also introduce yourself and your company, and what do you do in the mobility while we go through. Jeff, you already done that. So why don't we start maybe from that side that we come all the way here. So my question is, what are the use cases that your company is primarily looking at or focusing of interest for your company?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Hillermeier. I'm leading the global strategy, markets, and business development at Volocopter, and I'm part of the senior leadership team. We at Volocopter, we bring urban air mobility to life. What does that mean? We are developing, certifying, and then bringing fully electric-powered aircrafts into city worldwide and bringing, let's say, operations from A to B into the third dimension. So looking into the sky above and providing services for passengers and for cargo from A to B. And with that said, that's our goal, and we are very far progress to bring urban air mobility to life already next year, 2024.
Thank you, Michael. Then I go to you, Laith.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. So my name is Laith Hamad. I am the CEO of OneWeb and NEOM joint venture. OneWeb is a satellite operator, low Earth orbit satellite provider, which cover the entire globe. And Autonomous is the tech and digital arm of NEOM company. So OneWeb and Autonomous, they have partnered to create a joint venture to connect the unconnected in the region. And I'm happy to take you through all our satellite technologies anytime. Thank you.
Mischa, over to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mischa Dohler. I work for a fascinating engineering shop called Ericsson, and I'm based now in Silicon Valley. What we're interested in is really when it comes to mobility, we're really interested in understanding how consumer mobility will play out with AR overlays. So we're really trying to see how the AR ecosystem with the native 5G connectivity can really help there. We're also interested in digital twinning because we have a lot of infrastructure and physical assets in the city. Therefore, surveying them, we get real-time updates. We can build digital twins of cities better than anybody else. So we're on that. And the third one is, of course, the digital airspace. So how do you connect all the assets which are flying around? Can we make this a platform proposition? Can we make this a 5G proposition so the unit cost actually goes down and therefore, kind of pushes also connectivity in the skies?
Thank you, Mischa. And Florence Verzelen from...
Thank you. Nice to be with all of you. I'm Florence Verzelen. I'm the Executive Vice President at Dassault Systèmes, and I'm very happy that you mentioned digital twins, because we basically invented digital twins 30 years ago. And what do? We empower companies to innovate thanks to virtual twin of their product, of their manufacturing plant, of their ecosystem, of their enterprise. And today we are working with more than 80% of the car company of this world, helping them to do electric mobility, better batteries, but also smart ecosystem, autonomous vehicles. So for us, it's never been a better time because of everything happening in smart mobility.
Very good. Jeff, you already introduced yourself, but if you want to give a quick...
Yeah, sure. So I've been with the Zephyr program for about 3 years, and now we've got AALTO, where I've been heading up connectivity and business development for the mobile connectivity sector.
Thank you very much. So maybe let me come back to you, Mischa. So we talk a little bit on the use cases, but on the technology side and the advancement on what do you see as a 5G? What can bring? What is new that you're most excited, for example?
Right, how geeky do you want me to go?
Oh,
that's the question,
let's keep the seal on, at least on a minute one. pick one, let's say.
So we do have a new technology asset to play with. We call that NTN, and we're very good actually in coming up with acronyms in our ecosystem. It stands for non-terrestrial networks. And the idea is really to bring satellite connectivity capabilities natively into 5G. We've been added actually as release 15 and 16 in terms of study items, and we have frozen that now from an engineering standard in release 17, which was last summer. Turned out it didn't work really well, so we had to reopen the Pandora box and redo some things. So I think all was frozen at the end of last year. And really what we want to avoid is that we come up with bespoke connectivity solutions. So things like Apple does with a satellite provider is something we don't really like. It really geeks us out as an industry because it reminds us of the 1G era where everybody had their own bespoke type of solutions to connect things. And we know this didn't really play out. We really want to leverage on the 5G platform capabilities, standardized systems, so we're clearly going to compete in one way or another, but it gives us a much larger scale and the cost goes down, the barrier goes down, cost goes down, and we see a much bigger business opportunity there. So we really would love all your assets which are flying around in Sky to be natively 5G connected. That would be awesome because then we can take phone calls straight from the phone, and that's really what we want to drive. If that makes sense.
Very good. So, Florence, I'm coming back to you maybe. From the side where you sit and in your company, how do you see the smart mobility transforming? What is the transformation that you experience, or what is it that is happening? And what are the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders in this change also?
Thank you very much, because it's a very interesting question. Well, for me, smart mobility, it's all about data, connectivity, and ecosystem. And I do believe the mobility of the future will be empowered only if we're able to empower ecosystem around virtual twins, around platforms. For example, we are working with Renault, Thales, Orange, Atos, and some other, ST Microelectronics, on an ecosystem called Software Republic. And what do we do at Software Republic? Well, we are basically inventing the mobility of tomorrow by bringing together the skills of the 5 companies in order to define new business model. So for me, what is key is creating ecosystem with different people, Ericsson, NEOM, satellites, all others, but also having a platform to work together on this project. And in order to accelerate innovation using virtual worlds, because there is a lot. I'm sure Zephyr has done a virtual twin of his Zephyr before you send it to the atmosphere. And if you want to accelerate innovation, use virtual twins, use virtual worlds, because that can be a trigger of innovation and efficiency.
Maybe just to continue, do you see also other parts, I don't know, electrifications, fuel consumptions, or?
Definitely, autonomous vehicles and electrification are the 2 big plays. Okay. And here, again, I think ecosystem is super important. Just 20 minutes ago, together with Zero, VP of High-Tech, we were working with Capgemini on bringing a new offer on autonomous vehicle, where we are bringing the competencies of Dassault Systèmes with the one of Capgemini to accelerate autonomy. And the same with electrification. Electrification, it's about bringing the battery manufacturer together with the car manufacturer and making sure as well that the city brings the right ecosystem for the charging station. So it's an ecosystem play, again, and that's the reason why looking at the platform view of the ecosystem is so key.
Nice. So maybe from this one, I want to jump more to Michael. So you are, as you said, you're in a new business. When we look at the smart mobility, you actually are transforming, you are trying to change the passenger experience. Just for myself, if I have to give an example, what would be the closest thing that we have now? Or would it be like an helicopter? But if I see an helicopter, I'm not able to take an helicopter every day, right? Because of different reasons. Where do I need to go to take it? How much does it cost me? Where I can land? All these questions. How do you see your new business? How do you see it transforming? What are the differences?
It's a very good question, because in the beginning, when our company was founded in 2011, the question came up, what is it? Is it an airplane? Is it a helicopter? In the end, we defined together, of course, with the industry and also with the European Aviation Safety Agency, the name around eVTOLs, which is electrical vertical takeoff and landing aircrafts. So to explain, Volocopter is designing, certifying, and of course developing and also producing a totally new kind of aircraft. We are an aviation company, so we have all the certification in place for designing and also then producing an aircraft, like also traditional aircraft manufacturers. At the same time, we are a software and electronic company, bringing together the bits and pieces also from a, let's say, novel type of designing and architecture of aircrafts, like also coming from software-driven operations and so on. So that's the comparison. With that said, Volocopter can of course work and substitute part of the existing, let's say, urban mobility into the air. We are talking about a small percentage there. At the same time, also to your question, expanding to what is feasible today, right? We are fully concentrating on safety, so we are as safe as a commercial airliner today. That means when you fly into Barcelona, for example, you probably have flown with a commercial airliner in. We have to comply with the same safety standards. One very important aspect to fly in any city or in any environment worldwide. Second aspect is then, of course, pollution and noise. So our noise signature, when we are flying at 100 meters above ground level, compared to city noise, you will not recognize us flying in the air. So that's very important for also public acceptance and making that accessible to cities. And when we compare that overall to traditional, let's say, helicopter operations, we are a total different value proposition. But in the end, and then we are talking about the ecosystem again, we have to make it integrated end-to-end as a customer value proposition.
So maybe if I can track it back a little bit on the connectivity, how do you see from your perspective, what does connectivity means for you, for your vehicles, for your service, and what is 5G bringing, if you see a role of 5G playing?
I see it in different phases. So as I said, we will launch our services as early as next year, 2024, with, let's say, a traditional mode of transportation with a pilot on board and also limited connectivity in the beginning. But when we talk about connectivity and 5G and the ecosystem, and there was a session before on smaller drones, of course we are talking also about step-by-step approach towards, let's say, first assisted urban air mobility, then automated urban air mobility, and in the end also autonomous urban air mobility. And in that ecosystem, of course, connectivity plays a vital role to connect all the different dots in the network to make it work, right? It starts from the ground-based infrastructure. What is my charging station doing? How does my aircraft behave in the air? What is the predictive maintenance status of certain aspects? And in the end also, how does this all play in with the different partners in the ecosystem? Because Volocopter is partnering with cities, with regulators, also of course with insurances, telcos, and so on. And we are very partner-oriented, right? Because we have a big mission, and we cannot do it alone. Yeah.
Okay, maybe then I can move to Laith and ask a question on connectivity, also 5G. How do you see 5G, and what are the different role of satellite, different constellation, different altitude? We just saw Jeff talking about hubs, and then DO, Geo, MEO. So yeah. Can you give it a little bit of an overview?
Of course. So OneWeb is a low Earth orbit provider, which means that the satellites is flying much more closer to Earth. So the regular satellites, or what they call a geostationary satellites, they fly at 36,000 kilometers above the Earth. So OneWeb low Earth satellites are 30 times closer to Earth, at around 1,000 kilometers above the globe. So that's basically to solve the problem of the latency. And the latency is pure physics. The signal needs time to go to the satellite and come back. So that solves the problem of the latency. And coming back to your question about how the satellites would support a 5G technology. So 5G, it's a standard as we know it. So if you can comply with this standard with a certain speed and latency and limits, then you can provide a 5G service. So what we have done with OneWeb is we have done demos, and now we have a live operation where we provide 5G cellular backhaul connectivity, which means we partner with the mobile operators around the globe to help them expand their coverage and enhance their services by backhauling the traffic of the 5G cellular tower in remote areas where it does not make sense or does not make a commercial sense to lay down fiber or have microwave links. So that's how the satellites could support the 5G and the mobility. And I always say it's never a one technology that can bridge the digital divide, the digital divide and close all that connectivity needs. It will always be a terrestrial network, a HAPS networks, a satellite, a LEO, a GEO, a MEO, and so on and so forth, because there is no one technology can satisfy all the needs. So being smart or smart connectivity is to know when you connect, to what you connect, where you connect, and for what application you are connect. So each location, each application requires some sort of connectivity, and being smart is to know to what technology you are connecting.
Maybe coming to you, Jeff, since you presented. So how do you see yourself as an AALTO positioning or cooperating with other orbital satellites?
It's exactly as the slide that I showed you, is it's a multi-layer approach to your point. It becomes a use case decision. The thing that I would reiterate is it's providing people now with choices that probably didn't exist 10 years ago. And so the way we've tried to approach it, to also add even more flexibility within the HAPS layer, if I can just touch on that briefly, is we're technology agnostic. So we're building what is effectively a tower. The mobile network operator could be operating LTE today. They could then swap the box away and put it a 5G box. We just relay the signal. In 3 years' time, that may be a 6G device. Could be Open RAN. So it's trying to provide that open sort of interface. And my view is the better we work as an ecosystem to ensure that when our customers, whoever they may be, are able to access standards-based services easily, on demand, for when they need them, we'll see us all succeed.
And if you allow me to also connect with this,
sure.
So the satellite operation is always works in a complementary way and resiliency way. So we complement the mobile operators to connect their services and expand their coverage, and we also back up their connection in case of any emergencies. And there are synergies between all the technologies, like the low Earth orbit satellites can work with the HAPS, where the HAPS is flying really remote. They can put a terminal which can backhaul the traffic through the satellites. So there is always a complementarity and a resiliency part of the connectivity.
Okay, very good. Then we can probably switch, as you mentioned, the digital twin is quite important. It's an area where you work for a long time, Florence. So can you give some information, okay, what the digital twin bring? What are the benefits? Do you have some example that you can give to the audience?
Sure, and thank you for the question. Well, for me, digital twin and virtual twin are really a good way to innovate more quickly, produce more efficiently, and life cycle more sustainably. Why? Because you're working on a virtual twin, basically you can have all the functions of the company working together on the same project, exactly in the same virtual world. And you can have the people who are working on the motor, working with the designer, and you don't have all the back and forth that you had in the past when you had the designers working, then the engineers working. Everything can be done on a single project. So you save a lot of time, first, on creating new innovative products. And then, with a digital twin of your factory, what you can do is also optimize everything in your manufacturing plant. So you can optimize all the processes, but you can also optimize all the supply. And for example, some of our clients, they could save something like 30% of the time in their production line just by using the virtual twin of the plant. And last but not least, the virtual twin can also be used for sustainability. With your virtual twin, you can, with artificial intelligence, optimize your product for sustainability, trying in the virtual world new materials, new methods, in order to have a more sustainable product. And even if you want to have a longer life for your product, use the virtual twin of your product to plan for the second life of the third life of some parts of your product, so that can extend the life and make your product, your Zephyr, your Volocopter more sustainable.
And if I look at it from the network side, or maybe I come to you, Mischa, what do you see as a need to support the digital twin from the connectivity maybe? What is that is required from a network?
You know, we actually do what Florence has just been alluding at, right? So we are trying to build a digital representation of the real physics, and that is really the magic, because we understand now the networks much better without interrupting live networks, right? So the moment you get the real RF propagation with the real physics, with the real towers, with the rain, with the leaves, with the people walking, suddenly you can do a lot of things in that, you know, in that digital twinning world without interrupting the live networks. For us, it's a real asset, you know, so we can do a lot of things. We are very good at that because we understand that. But we need help from other players, you know, who maybe understand the social mobility patterns, who understand other things which we need. So I think what's really important is to have that kind of interoperability between digital twins. And I don't think anybody has really talked about this. Everybody building their own sandcastle, you know, so maybe we need a standard there and really drive that across industries. I think this is where we see the multiplier value of digital twins. Just an idea since you invented it. So yeah, there you go.
Maybe I will come also to Michael. Do you already use digital twin, or you intend to use it?
So yes, we are intending to use it in the future, of course. Today's status quo is that we have, of course, digital tools and methods in the process of developing our product. We are using it in some ways for flight testing, and we are also using it in some ways for production, without going into too much detail there. But at the same time, Volocopter sees, of course, the need for putting the digital representation of the real ecosystem also in an orchestration, which we called VoloIQ, which is the urban air mobility platform which we are building, and where we integrate step by step further features and functions into it. And one of the main topics is, of course, the product and the digital world versus the real world, and the feedback vice versa. And I think there is a lot of steps where we can also improve in the future with partners. So I think there will be some updates also from us in the future.
Very good. So maybe I want to switch now on the business aspect. So there's quite a lot of changes, even the digital twin, or satellite hubs. What do we see then on the smart mobility? How smart mobility business model or the overall business model need to change? Do we see a change? Maybe it's to all of you. Who wants to start?
I may start. So the change I see in the smart mobility is the availability of the options to connect. So now with the development and the advancements of the technology, we have multiple options to connect any mobile platform. So whether it is an aircraft flying in the sky, a vessel cruising in the sea, a train, or a moving vehicle, you have many options to connect while you are in mobile transit. But so that's the difference now. Would it affect the business case in a positive way? Yes, because you will have multiple options. Multiple options means availability and means less price as well. So the competition is higher, and the competition is always good, as we say.
Anyone else?
Yeah, maybe from, because I'll let you on so very quickly. You know, I'm not an expert in your world, but I see big similarities to our 5G world, right? If you look at the Mobile World Congress maybe 10 years ago, we were exhibiting boxes and cables, okay? You barely see any boxes and cables now because everybody's gone platform, API, and you know, we can transit finally from a business model which was very ARPU-based into something which is more API call-based. And I think, you know, your industry is probably also going into a platform business and opens up so many more opportunities, and it's powered by that choice of connectivity. So yeah, it's quite exciting, but you're probably a little bit behind, I would say, so maybe 5, 6, 10 years, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I would love to see that. So an expo in 10 years in your world, not to exhibit the flying, but the platforms, right? So that would be a really great transformation in my opinion. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Thank you. And I agree with Mischa. We need a platform. We need to platformize everything in order to connect all the smart mobility of the future. And for me, once we will have this platform approach, the mobility of the future will be sustainable and autonomous. Because thanks to 5G brought by AALTO or brought by satellites, we are going to be able to bring real autonomy if we have full connectivity and linked to the virtual twin. That's working. So that's the future, and no traffic jams anymore.
And I'll just add, you know, for me it comes back to the choice, but it's thinking about what will this capability unlock?
Yes.
Because so many times you go to meetings in the past and people come up with an idea and then it just stops because they look around and they cannot figure out a way to do that. You know, I've been talking with people recently about medical deliveries by drone to remote locations and townships, and they're really scratching their head of how to get there. And because connectivity is like job one. If you get that done, you can enable many things, and so it's just providing those choices.
Right, so we're actually getting to a closing, unfortunately. So I want to ask to each of you one thing. If you have to come back next year, so hopefully we have a similar panel, what would you like to be seen achieved next year? That is done, that is job done. Maybe start with you, Jeff, and then we go.
So for me, this time next year, we will have flown for longer than anybody else on Earth in the history of mankind with a fixed-wing aircraft in the stratosphere, and also demonstrated full connectivity use cases, which means what I've been talking about today is a reality. And we'll also be announcing our commercial service goes live at the end of next year as well. So I think there's some fundamental milestone achievements, a lot of hard work from our team between now and then, but that's what we'll be talking about.
Florence?
Thank you. For next year, I hope Volocopter has a virtual twin, which is Volocopter. And more generally, I hope virtual twin really become mainstream because it's a fabulous way to accelerate innovation.
Mischa?
I would love to take my first, you know, electric Uber flight in Silicon Valley, you know? That would be using a smartphone app, you know, 5G enabled. I would love to do that. Yep.
Yeah. So for me, next year, I really look forward to have the satellite connectivity, the OneWeb satellite connectivity in my region, in the Middle East and the East Africa, together with Autonomous, as like OneWeb has already started in the North Hemisphere and providing commercial services. I very much look forward to have it in my region together with Autonomous, and I look also to have the user terminals on the ground to be, I would say, vastly available to everyone, because that's the bottleneck of having the ubiquitous connectivity and services.
Amiga?
Yes, I want to have two-folded answer to that. On a global perspective, I think we as mankind have to work on to invest more in everything around sustainability and decarbonizing aviation. So I want to see us moving forward into that direction and having clear also commitment to that. For Volocopter speaking, I think you already took my wishes, no matter where it is, but that we, of course, get into a first certification of the product, which opened up the markets then for Europe first. So I invite you then to Europe rather than the US for now, but that's, I think, a realistic ambition for us, and then hopefully to be back here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe next year we have 2 queues of taxis. One
Exactly.
traditional, one new. Well, with this one, we don't have any more time for our panelists. So please give a warm welcome and thank you to all of them. I hope you enjoyed it.